Hello, my name is Michaela. I am a third-year nursing student here in the University of Calgary in Qatar. So being a nursing student during the pandemic was a big challenge for me. But it taught me how to be resilient, adaptive, and organized with my time. Some of the major key factors that impacted my learning was the transition to online classes and maintaining my mental health. There was always this huge cloud of uncertainty if things would get better during these tough times. I would even ask myself if I would graduate as a competent nurse because of the lack of clinical experience and practice with my hands-on skills. Fortunately, right now we are able to attend classes here on campus and we are able to have our clinical rotations, and it is a blessing and I'm truly grateful. This just goes to show that no matter how blurry the future may be or how dark the times may seem, just always push yourself and work hard as a student, and eventually you'll reach the light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Clodovesa, currently fourth-year nursing student in the University of Calgary in Qatar. The COVID-19 pandemic became an opportunity as well. We faced many challenges throughout the few years that the pandemic is here. It has been a great opportunity for us to see how resilient we are, how we're very adaptive towards the changes that's been happening in our classes, in our environment, as well as within our communities. The university helped us in our transition as we go forward from being into face-to-face classes to our Zoom classes. We have ups and downs. We spent hours in clinicals online, but that didn't work out as effectively as it should be. But they were addressing those type of problems into more inclusive and intense courses that we had in spring, where we had to go 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, learning all the skills that we previously learned, as well as we kept our activities ongoing, advocating for best practices, helping our communities to have information during the pandemic, and also aiding students in terms of what support do they need. And a lot of it comes from collaboration between the students and the instructors. What did we need, or what do they need from us? So it was an exchange of information, which is really grateful at this certain time. We also proceeded with producing different events that would highlight, for example, the role of evidence-based practices in the community on how using it, and also about information against vaccine hesitancy, and also the drive for using masks in social media. We are hopeful that as we continue our face-to-face classes today, because right at this point in time I'm talking to you guys, the University of Calgary in Qatar has been enforcing 100% face-to-face classes, and we continue to hope that the COVID-19 cases here in Qatar will come down as all of the students are back in their clinical rotations and back supported here in campus. And I think that's something to be hopeful for in Canada and elsewhere in the world, that there is hope. There is hope for normalcy and for being back to normal before the pandemic. On behalf of the students here in the University of Calgary in Qatar, we hope you to keep safe, to mask up, and to have the opportunity to be vaccinated whenever you can. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Dr. Shannon McNevin, and I'm the BPSO lead here at the University of Calgary in Qatar, or UCQ. I would first like to express my gratitude for being invited to engage in these important conversations about supporting the next generation of nurses. I think these are really important conversations to have, and I think it's really exciting opportunity for our BPSOs across the globe to have these discussions. Here at UCQ, we are very fortunate to have such a resilient faculty and student body, as you heard from our students earlier in the video. So initially, UCQ closed its door on Monday, March 9th, 2020, but the following Monday, March 16th, 2020, contingency plans were enacted and classes and labs were up and running online with the use of synchronous and asynchronous methods. Clinical placements were also held online at the time, consisting of 8 hours of online engagement using virtual simulation and creative activities such as role-playing. Through this unprecedented time, we know that the mental health of students and staff were suffering with the quick transition into the unfamiliar pedagogy that is online learning and the stress of trying to train nurses through virtual technologies. Fortunately, in January of this year, labs were back in person and students were also able to get back into clinical. Theory has remained online until the beginning of this school year, but we are now 100% back on campus with public health precautions in place. And you can feel the joy in the hallways again, which has been missing for so long, and it feels very good. However, listening to the students and recognizing their struggles to make up for missing a year of in-person clinical, many organizational decisions and processes were put into place to support the students' transition into entry-level practice. I'll highlight a couple of things. So first, the curriculum was adjusted for the third years who missed their in-person clinical experience, which would have been their first major experience, so that an elective was made into an additional mandated clinical. So all of the students had to go to clinical for 5 days a week for 8 weeks, which was completely intense experience for both the faculty and the students, but actually well received in that the students felt that they had a lot of time to practice their skills, engage in some of the learning that they had missed or they felt that they had missed online. This additional clinical was done in the spring semester and was possible because of the commitment from the ministry and healthcare institutions to support the nursing students in clinical placements. Also, because we have a concept-based curriculum, students were put in placements where they could practice skills, not necessarily populations. And the size of clinical groups were also made smaller, so students had more one-on-one interactions with their instructors. So in addition to extra clinical supports, a full-time student and faculty support coordinator was hired to create remediation plans for students who were falling behind and felt like they needed more support, and also to help students through the transition plan. This coordinator has been an essential support for students academically and otherwise how they feel they need the support. So there's also a preceptor program with our healthcare institutions that provide support for nursing students in their first year transitioning into an entry-level practice nurse. And this will remain permanent, which is a great outcome. So even though there was a lot of stress put upon us during COVID to support our nursing population in Qatar, we have emerged with stronger partnerships, I think, between our student nurses, healthcare institutions, and academia, which will ultimately help to excel in our overall goal to support our student nurses for entry-level practice in the long run. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dilshad Pirani and I am Senior Instructor at University of Calgary in Qatar. I am going to talk more about what Shannon already explained, how we supported our students to overcome the effects of pandemic. My first point is the clinical placement. Due to pandemic, our students were unable to go to clinical for some period of time. As a result, they missed their clinical opportunities. So first thing which we did is 3 weeks of express clinical experience online, where we used Zoom feature and different functionalities to simulate clinical environment for them, where they used breakout room and online simulations to practice their nursing process, utilizing their buddy, their peers to do patient interviews and doing those interventions and evaluations. During this time, they audio recorded their experiences, they did their interviews and audio recorded, and then we as a group, we listened to those interviews and then evaluated. So those 3 weeks were quite intense, and it was the first time when they were doing their clinical for entire 8 hours. But we managed, our student managed, because all of us were ready to make it happen. So we did our best. The second thing is, when situation got better, then we had 8 weeks of clinical for our student, like 5 days a week, where they did all practicing their skills, practicing their nursing process with their instructor support. So that was another express clinical which they experienced to compensate what they lost during pandemic. Third thing is we did workshop on entry to practice competencies for them to understand those competencies again and assess themselves where they stand, which are the competencies which they have already achieved, and what are the competencies where they still have learning needs. So that workshop was really helpful for our students to get better understanding and insight of those entry to practice competencies. And last thing is what we are doing in our advanced concept theory classes is preparing them for this transition role. What I mean preparing is they are doing their self-assessment, their self-reflection by which they are enhancing their self-awareness of who they are, what they like to achieve in this by this profession, what are their passion, and then how they prepare themselves for real life situation when they become RN. They are also assessing themselves on leadership competencies, how they are going to utilize these leadership competencies to demonstrate their clinical leadership when they become RN. So when they became more aware of where they stand, so in their final year of clinical, how they are assessing themselves is by our clinical evaluation tool, which includes these 9 entry to practice competencies, and they are assessing themselves at clinical that what are the behaviors they present to demonstrate these competencies, and there are midterm evaluation and final evaluation where they are where they are presenting themselves, getting feedback from their instructors, and promoting their learning accordingly. So as a result of all these efforts from students and from instructor and from UCQ, I feel that all of us did very good job in helping and supporting our student to be prepared for their transition. And as I teach 4th year student advanced concept, and I am their clinical instructor, so I get feedback from them that they feel quite prepared and they're looking forward to, and this express clinical and this self-assessment and this online clinical, they utilized all those opportunities so well, and they're able to demonstrate all those learning in clinical, in theory class. And I also see them that they are becoming effective follower to demonstrate their clinical leadership and demonstrate all this nursing profession the way we want our future nurses to become. And I'm thankful for all those opportunities which have been provided by our organizations, by RNO and all other resources which we are able to utilize for our student support. Thank you.